Welcome to the after show for Orphan Black, the next chapter audiobook brought to you by Cereal Box. Oh my gosh, what a crazy episode. All the clones are in trouble. Vivi is playing no games and Cosima is full on in jail right now. We also have the writer of this episode, Madeline Ashby, calling in, so stay tuned.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, Clone Club. We're back, baby.
What's up?
Hello,
Episode
sugars.
5. Every child is cast from paradise. What an episode. I'm so excited to be talking about it. I'm Steph Sabraw, Orphan Black huge fan of this audiobook, and I am joined by an awesome panel. Matt Marr, he's a longtime Orphan Black fan, was actually on the AfterBuzz TV after show for it. OG. And we have Shiksha Mahtani in the house.
Yes.
She is our also Orphan Black fan, loves Tatiana Maslany, and we are so happy to have you on this panel officially.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Woo, let's talk Tatiana.
I didn't get the cool lipstick memo, but y'all did.
Maybe next time.
Maybe
Yeah,
I
next
have
time.
some.
I know you dabble sometimes.
You know I do.
I know you do.
You
So,
know I do.
like I mentioned in the beginning, we have the writer Madeline Ashby calling in after we break down this episode. We are so excited to talk to her because, as we know, since it's an audiobook, it is so writer-based, and these writers are freaking killing it.
They are.
So it's awesome to
Amazing.
kind of pick their heads, especially on this episode, which so much stuff happened. And then once we get off the phone with her, we'll get into our special segment of Clone.
You did it!
And we'll wrap it up with some predictions. But what was your overall thoughts of episode 5?
Well, it was a great episode, as was to be expected, but I definitely think it had its ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
There were high moments where I was really into it, and then there were moments where I could tell they were just trying to give us the information. So mixed.
I think it was
Yeah.
like their world building, which is
Yeah.
what Orphan Black's infamous for. So, but it's different when it's an audiobook.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I love this one. This was actually, I think, and we'll talk about it later, but I think this maybe was my favorite episode so far.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't blame you because I started so tired just from the day when I was listening to it. And then 10 minutes in, I was like, holy cow, strapped in. What the heck is happening? And all the way till the end, I'm like, what the heck is actually happening?
Yeah.
It's so stressful. I think I'm still sweating from it. But let's dive right in and break it down
Please.
by our clones. Delphine kind of took away the first act, so to speak, of this episode. And it was really Delphine based and her speaking to the group of people, pleading with them on security and when you do these types of things, what the repercussions can be. And I thought it brought up a lot of interesting points, particularly the vaccine. When we start to lose trust in our scientists and our government, like things like anti-vax happens. What do you guys think this plea is going to work? And what did you think about this whole part in general, Matt?
I think this is a part, like, we kind of were talking before, like, we were at first a little bit like, what's happening? Where are we in the beginning of this? Like, it was just a little, but I think it was supposed to be kind of jarring and confusing. I feel like what it reminded me is, we talked about this before, we're like, is Delphine, we went so long where Delphine was like, is she good? Is she not? Is she? And I forgot which one of you, but you said, like, I don't know, is Delphine, like.
It's probably me. I have trust issues.
Yeah. I think it was you. I feel like this solidifies, like, Delphine is the same person, but in a lot of ways, a different Delphine. Like, she's committed to Cosima, she's committed to the clones, and she's committed to medical ethics because she did that before in her past, and she really feels bad about that and was regretful about that. So for me, this whole first part was really establishing that Delphine she's a good girl. That's what I mean.
Yeah, it's nice to see her in this role. I liked how she was using real life events such as Tuskegee to make her argument, which was really cool to listen to. But I don't think she's going to end up convincing them just because they're just bad people anyway.
Yeah.
And you make the ethical argument all you want. It's not really going to make a difference. I thought it was funny that she thought Cosima wasn't going to do anything. I mean, come on. She knows better than that. But overall, I think this is moot. just her trying to do her part, but I don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah, it's interesting because Delphine humanizes the clones just by being another addition to the, like, you really understand that they are completely like us. There's no difference. And the idea of how clones were created, when she says you're so focused on the potential of good that you lose focus on the potential of bad.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what has happened. All the clones, and we see later with Dana and Vivi, their collateral damage.
Yeah.
And that part I like. So I don't know necessarily if that's going to move the plot, but I do think it brings up a good, bigger point that with science and with experiments in general.
Oh, yeah, it's so true. I mean, even though you're trying to do good things, there's always going to be other ways that you can go about it. Bad people are going to do bad things with it, no matter what your intentions are. So there's no avoiding that, unfortunately.
And I liked how it was phrased in this way of, we're definitely in this day and age right now where people are often looking for what they want. They're not looking for factual information. They're looking for what they want to hear. And then they believe what they want to hear is fact when it's not. So I love that she was talking about false facts and, like, the whole, like, vaccine and, like, sorry, y'all, vaccine your kids. Sorry, that's my thing. But there's that whole, like...
It's true, though,
But there are people, like, that don't believe climate change, that don't believe actual science.
It's so true.
And I love that they, politics aside, if you're yelling at this, sorry, get educated. But I feel like what they're saying in this is that it's the same way. We can tell ourselves what we want to hear, but it's not really the ethical, factual thing that we should be doing.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about this show. It brings it in.
I think Orphan Black and the continuation of this podcast, of this audiobook on Serial Box, shows you that these writers in this story doesn't have, like, they're not scared of telling you what is. And they've done it all from the beginning, like with all the character introductions of Fee and his relationship, the idea of science and anti-vax and government and police officers and the control of them. They're really good about being like, this is what we think, and we're going to show it kind of through art in these characters, and they do it in such a good way. So I completely agree with you.
And since you did bring up Storybox, I want to remind people that if you're saying, what is this? Is this a TV show? Is this a podcast? We're reminded that this is an audio story, and the story continues with the official ebook and audiobook narrated by Emmy Award winner Tatiana Maslany. We love her. Get the next chapter. You can get that at Orphan Black. You can download it on Serial Box app, which is a really cool app. I just downloaded it the other day, and we have a little bit.ly link in the show notes. If you're listening to the podcast, it'll be in the show notes. You can press on that, and new episodes drop every Thursday.
Yes, thank you. Let's get into Cosima, because what the heck? She kind of brings in two other characters, Priyantha, Jay, and Art. So we pick up where we left off. Sturgis is dead, but now she's under arrest. She needs a lawyer. She calls Delphine, and she is really going through it, but at the same time has to worry about her own, like, future. And it ends on a really interesting note where Jay is trying to get all this information from her, but the DOJ comes and she tells her all cops are bastards except for Arthur Bell. He knows exactly who I am. So Cosima, everything about that line is so Cosima. Did you guys think that she had confidence Art was gonna, like, disclose the clone information? Because I feel like that's the only way this can really go. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. Shishka?
I did not think she was gonna... I didn't think that she thought Art was gonna tell her about the clones, but I did think that Art would somehow find a way to convince Jay that she's not the culprit, even if it just means one sister. So when Art actually told her that there were many... I was surprised. I didn't expect that. I mean, because that requires a lot of trust, you know? And we don't really know Jay that well yet, so...
Yeah.
I think she was desperate, because I took of it is that she did it because she said, you know, she said the whole thing, like, Sturgis keeps it close to his chest, really close to his chest, talk to Art, and then she said, take it to Delphine. Like, she basically said almost everything she knew in 2 sentences. So to me, I felt like that was more of... I agree with you, actually, that I don't think she knew if Art would tell her or not, but she also didn't have an option. She was getting arrested and she just was desperate. And I think she was hoping that Art would just find a way.
Yeah. So I agree with that. And I'm also I want to kind of break down what I'm hearing so I hear what your guys' thoughts are when you hear it, because it's different from a show, you see it.
Spill it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I think is happening is Jay knows Vivi, or Jay knows about Vivi, is confusing Vivi with Cosima.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thinks Cosima's Vivi.
Yes.
And but we don't really know Jay's MO yet. We just know she's gotten this investigation kind of handed to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's an
I need
art.
to talk this out.
No, I feel like it's an art vibe where, at least from my understanding, Jay right now is just a good cop trying to do their job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Is that
true.
what you get?
And she does
You trust
think-
her?
Yeah, I mean, actually, yes. She sounds like
Loaded
somebody who
question.
just wants to like serve and like. I'm scared to say it because I want to say yes.
I know.
And then like episode 9, I'm gonna be like, she's a.
Shiksha, trust or not?
Oh, I don't know. I'm
We all
I'm
have
the
trust
same
issues
place.
in here.
Who hurt us?
Well, also she's seeing that there were so many deaths involved, even from the past with the German and all of that. And the only explanation she can think of is that it's the spy. But I think she's really, she's gutsy to be doing this with a supposed spy, because then she's kind of going against the CIA, and it's like, what are you doing? Can you really hold her?
She, no hesitation, called up Art. She said, let's go.
Exactly. And we're talking about a CIA agent, which is confusing to me, because if you're a CIA agent, then it's not unheard of to be taking all these different personas. But at the same time, there are all these deaths that are following her. So I get where Jay is coming from. I want to trust her, but I'm like you, Matt. I don't know that I should. And I don't know.
I met too many guys at Mickey's at 12 a.m. that told me they loved me, and then the next day I woke up alone. So, you know.
Well, there we go. There it is.
And if you don't know what Mickey's is in West Hollywood, Google it.
Honestly, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think you just summed up how we feel.
Yeah.
But what I love, Art brings in this new art element. He's so good at navigating these spaces, and he was basically saying, I know it seems like you have everything in front of you, but you don't have the pieces that would actually convict her. You don't. There's no gun burn marks. There's no weapon around, and then she starts being like, oh, something is up.
That was very fulfilling. As someone who saw how confused Art was, so lost, y'all, for like 2 seasons. He was like, WTF. So for him, like, I had bet that for Art, that felt good to be like,
Let me tell you.
I know you think you know, but you don't know. And just to be and say that to her, I thought that was there were some great moments of characters that were just so fulfilling as a listener.
Well, why do you think that he actually told her about the clones? Because if there was no gunpowder on her hand, she could only hold her for so long, right? And would have had to let her go. So there was really no reason
I think we're seeing that and we'll talk about this later, kind of what happens at the end, which was definitely, I think, probably, again, all of our... Really, the "Oh, Clone You Didn't" segment really isn't always the end of the show, but then they're making it the end of it because they always drop a bomb. But I think we're seeing that this whole secrecy of the clone is just in all parts of the air. It's unraveling everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying. Things are heating up, and this episode did such a good job, to your point, Matt, of each sort of conversation that was happening had really good build up and an ending that is so confusing, and I just want to know what happens. So we end there. Cosima's we end that section of our clones. Cosima's in with the DOD. Now Jay and Art are desperately like, we need to find her because she's actually screwed if she stays there. So let's move on to our really tricky, sneaky clone, Vivi. Vivi!
This was so good. I loved it so much.
Vivi is playing 0 games.
Yeah, seriously.
Y'all, she has 0 Fs.
She's like Sara, but even more conniving. I don't know.
Kind of more ruthless Sara, and careless.
Yes, giving Sara a run for her money.
But
Ruthless Sara putting a literal mop on her head. Don't do that to Cosima.
Yeah, literally. I mean, I think there's also too, like, you know, we don't know fully about Vivi's life, but like, you know, Sara had a kid, so she was careless in some ways, but in other ways she was very like, I've got to be there for my kid. And like, I think we see like, this is I think what Sara could be if she was just like, not a parent, you know.
Yeah.
So
you
Kira
take more
grounded
risk.
her, basically.
I think so. I think you take more risk when you're not a parent.
Totally, yeah.
That's a great point, and we actually have Sara and Vivi going head to head. And this scene, I can't wait to talk to Madeline about because
Amazing.
the
I
escalation,
screamed.
the writing was insane. So I
Oh my
can't. We'll
God.
dive more into the details when we get Madeline on the line in just a few minutes. But I do want to talk about that a little bit, where Vivi is showing this longing for family. Like Sara has what she doesn't, and I think that's what makes her less ruthless, to your point. But when Sara figures out that she's not Cosima, she honestly says she doesn't know about the clones and does have a level of ignorance that is truthful. But I don't understand Vivi. What do you guys think we have on our hands here?
I don't think she's a Rachel. You know, I think she will end up on the clone side, but I think she's just a little afraid. She doesn't really know what's going on.
Yeah, because she didn't kill Sturgis.
Yeah.
She says.
Well, she didn't supposedly blow up
I don't think she did.
She saw it.
Yeah.
I think
She supervised.
I think she's younger. I think she just wants to. I think she just wants answers. What was so good. Well, this is why probably this was my favorite episode, because this tied up a lot of loose ends, meaning that we realized people that we didn't know knew each other. Like first of all, when they have this big fight, and then at the end when I gasped whenever Sara said something or Delphine said something about Dana, and she totally stopped.
Oh, yeah.
And Vivi was like, Dana?
Yeah.
So now like she knows about all them. She's in that world. We didn't know that.
So she doesn't know about them, I don't think. I think it was just kind of like sparking a memory.
No, I took that as like she knows Dana.
No, really?
Well, I love this.
Because she had the friends.
It's either she knows Dana because of the whole Boston thing that was the reason she came.
This is what this show does to your brain.
Let's save this for predictions. Let's move on. Let's close up our discussion with Charlotte, Arun, and Allison.
I just have one quick
Give it
question
to
I
me.
have to ask. Do you think that Sara knew the whole time that it wasn't Cosima?
Yes.
Me
Best
too.
moment ever.
Me too.
Yes.
Me too.
Yes.
Me too.
Yes.
Okay, it was so great.
She's like
That's
honestly the baddest.
That's the first
And I
one.
mean the baddest in a massive
And
compliment.
I told you, I predicted that she would come in and like bust ass.
At that
love
moment,
her.
it's like, Sarah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Charlotte's rash, a lower
yeah.
turn. This is a very creepy scene. So we're introduced to another character who is berating a clone. He
Yeah.
is the director. Arun knows him, and we find that out when Arun, Allison,
and his name we find out is Davis.
and Arun and Allison meet up with Charlotte, and this is discovered. So we don't really know Arun's connection. We now know Arun is connected with Vivi and Davis. So he will be like a massive puzzle piece in all of this. But I don't know what Charlotte's gonna do, but one thing she did do was call Kira, and they have some like coded discussion, which I think means that they want to come clean.
Yeah.
to
I think that's what that
society.
is.
Yeah.
What that is, I looked it up. That quote
thank
that
you.
it actually is from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And it's what the creature, because a lot of people don't know Frankenstein is the doctor, and the creature is what we now know as like Green Frankenstein. It's a great book. You should everybody read it. But the creature says that. So I think that's interesting that what the comparison that literally these clones are like Dr. Frankenstein's creations. So I really love the parallel. I was like,
That's so
like when
Matt Moore!
hey, not me. Talk to the writer. I didn't write it. I just Googled
Clutch
it.
the pearls. Okay, so we have to end there on our after show discussion. We'll pick up a little of our loose pieces after our
There's
interview.
a whole wing full of clones.
Yeah, we have to call Madeline Ashby again, the writer of this episode, and I'm sure we'll get to ask some questions about that epic scene between Sara and Vivi, which was insane. But other than that, we just know that we don't have a cure for Charlotte or the American clones, as Sara calls it.
Not yet.
But we have her coming on the line soon.
Soon.
I get excited every time.
I know.
But what do you guys have any major other scenes that you guys wanted to talk about from the episode?
I think for me, it was a good.
Oh, Madeline's here.
Oh, she's here. Great.
Hey, Madeline. Can you hear us and see us okay?
I can hear you, yes.
Awesome.
Great. We'll take it.
Thank you so much for joining. We're so excited to talk to you. This episode was crazy. The writing was exceptional. You are so talented.
Thank you very much.
And we do know that you're a little bit under the weather, so we really appreciate your time. But I want to get right into it. How was writing this episode in particular? There was so much great dialogue, and we were talking about just before we called you that it like encapsulated the characters perfectly and gave us the information we needed to.
Well, thank you. I worked. First, thanks for having me on, and second, thanks for saying that because it's something that I worked really hard at. We went over and over and over this chapter in particular because so much information comes out. There was almost like a to-do list of all of the things that have to sort of get mentioned and all of the things that the audience has to understand for the episode to go forward and for the plot to go forward. So that's one task, but the other task is to do it in character. And I was a fan of the show, and I knew how all of the different clones sounded. So one of the things that I did was to try to imagine Tatiana saying the pieces of dialogue in her voices. And I would sort of read them aloud to myself. And if I couldn't hear her saying it in my head, then I wouldn't do it.
Oh, that's cool.
That's so cool.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's like the only Orphan Black writing could like lead you into that type of headspace.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely you have to think of character voice is always important in writing, but I feel like in this it's so important because there's also different, and it gives the more voice you give your own character, I feel like the more it just makes Tatiana bring this character out when she's so good at doing this because the writing is so good that's there for her as a roadmap.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, when you know that someone of that caliber is going to be reading your work, you really have to step up your game. Mm-hmm. And that was part of it, was that I really wanted her to have something, something to chew on and something to have fun with and something that would sound fun and play well if you were listening to it.
I have to ask, what was it like writing the fight scene between Vivi and Sara? I know that we thoroughly enjoyed that scene. The whole moment where with the truffles and then the fight that
escalation.
That's the first scene where I'm like, I don't have a lot of money, but I would pay money just to film that scene with Tatiana so I could watch it.
It was the best.
I'm so glad. No, it was a scene. A lot of the developments in this chapter were developments that we had a master outline, but a lot of the developments in that chapter were developments that I sort of pitched and had ideas around. And one of them was that, Vivi will sneak into the house, and then she'll pretend to be Cosima, and then and then Sara will show up, and then this and then that, and it's sort of all stacked up on top of each other. And I really liked the idea of like getting Sara to come out and be her old self, and to sort of reveal herself to Vivi in that way, and for the two of them to have a tete-a-tete, and yet at the same time like find some common ground. But I also really liked the idea of like Sara is not this highly trained commando kind of person. She's just really smart,
resourceful,
very clever. And so I knew that she was going into a situation where she would have the upper hand in terms of knowledge. And so how would she exploit that knowledge? And then you get Cosima's, extracurricular activities, and suddenly it all sort of folded together.
Well, we just asked, I don't know if you heard before, did Sara know, like, from moment one that was not Cosima? Or did she take her a bit to discover that? Or would you reveal that?
I think the point at which I decided that she knew was when there's a line that Vivi has where she's pretending to be Cosima, and she says something about, like, oh, well, you know how teenagers are with their parents. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's something that, like, Cosima being a sensitive person, and a caring person to her sister would never say that to Sara.
Yeah.
Because of how hard it was for Sara growing up.
And she's very empathetic. That's true.
And so the moment that she says that,
yeah,
like a platitude, when it's your sister saying an uncaring thing to you, you immediately hone in on it and know that something must be wrong.
Yeah, that's so true.
I'm glad I asked that. That's true.
Yeah.
I want to go back and listen again.
I know, because I was I went back and I was like, was it when she asked about multiple people? Like, how's everyone?
How's everyone? Yeah. And
but that scene was so good because it not only exposed part of Vivi's insecurities, now realizing all these clones were just like fully developed women who had their own things going, but then also figuring out that she doesn't know her identity. I'm just curious from a writing perspective, what goes into your process to build scenes like that?
Well, I think it's sort of, for me, that was sort of, I'm glad you hone in on that, because that's something that always fascinated me about Vivi as a character, that she's slightly younger than the other clones. She's at this place in her life where she's sort of deciding whether or not she still wants to be doing what she's doing. She's kind of deciding that she doesn't know who she is. And I think that there's a thing that happens, especially among women, where you realize you start looking at everyone in your cohort, like all of your peers, and realizing that they're having very different lives to you. Like, I think now with like Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, that tension is magnified a lot. You can literally see the other lives that other people around you are having, despite having started out sometimes in very similar ways or from similar circumstances. And I think that it's easy to sort of project yourself or wonder if you've made the wrong choices, or if you made, to compare and contrast yourself and one-upsmanship and whatever. And I thought that for Vivi, it would be really challenging to realize that these people had lives that she thought were totally impossible for her, and that they made it look easy. And that's sort of what I wanted her to be wrestling with. And it's, I think, one of her journeys of the entire story is looking into these other lives.
I never thought of it that way, because she probably did make this. We know her parents died, so for her, it's and that's kind of all if I'm remembering, that's all we know of her backstory.
And that they told her that her clones were imaginary friends.
Yeah, and so all that she knows is that she probably might not ever have a family or a quote unquote normal life. And I mean, that just made me so sad for her, because she walks in that house and she sees all the pictures and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she also hasn't seen the whole other previous 5 seasons that we've seen about like how difficult it was to put that family together. It was not easy. But she arrives at this place where everybody is pretty comfortable and where they know each other, and she didn't see how hard that was at the beginning. So she's kind of seeing the sort of tip of the iceberg, I guess.
Madeline, I want to ask, I know that this writer's room in particular, you guys worked on your episodes separately, but had a collaborative process as well, and it was heavily female-dominated, and we talked with Eugene, which was great, and he said it was so awesome being around women writers, and especially for a female-centric show like this. What was that like for you? And I'm just curious your thoughts on that type of environment in general.
It was really great. I mean, for various reasons, I actually had to Skype in for a lot of my sessions, but it was a kind of challenge that I had never had before, and certainly working with a huge group of like a group of women writers like this was an opportunity that I was not going to get anywhere else, and or at least not anytime soon. And I was really excited about it for that reason. And it taught me a huge amount about how to outline. I had not been an outliner before as a writer. I had been, a pantser and not a plotter. And then this cured me of that real quick.
You mentioned outlining your to-do list, getting in the headspace of the characters. I'm curious to know, what was the most challenging part of writing this episode?
Continuity. Same as in television. It's the same as if we were producing the.
And when you say I'm sorry, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. When you say continuity too, I know we're thinking of plot continuity, but also I feel like it must be a real struggle because you all want to be different, but there obviously is a tone of the show, and each of you have your own tone of the way you write. So was that difficult to kind of hone in, or did y'all talk about that as writers, like of the tone of the whole series?
There were a couple of moments where we had to decide how people would describe things, like what their word was for something, and how they would describe other people to each other, and things like that. So there was a little bit. There was also questions about like, well, wait, what was she wearing in that scene? Have she changed clothes? What do I do? Was she still wearing her glasses there? Different, like even just like little tiny things that, a script supervisor in another context would be watching all of that. But without dailies to look at, without rush to look at the entire text and kind of do a search and replace and see what was happening right before this.
What was your favorite part of working on this project in particular?
Oh man, probably getting to know all of these other writers, like getting to know Malka and getting to know Helly and Michelle and Eugene and just sort of and Lindsay and getting to spend time with them in a way that I certainly, even if we all met at a convention or something, we still wouldn't have hung out in this kind of way.
Yeah.
And stuff, and for this long of a time. So it's really been, that's been, I want to say, like, the best part of it. I guess the other best part of it is knowing that Tatiana is performing your work is a huge honor and a huge challenge and a huge, it's a real pleasure and a huge delight. But I guess the other thing is that I live in Toronto, so for me personally, I got to write about where I live, and that was also great.
That is cool, because you don't always see so many Canadian-based projects.
Yeah.
It is here, very much
Right.
so. Now I have to ask too, because we brought this, because I Googled it because I'm a nerd. Where in the world, girl, did you pull that fantastic Frankenstein quote out? Because that was so perfect for this situation. I applauded.
I honestly just looked it up, and now I've found out that apparently it might be from Kenneth Branagh's version of the story. Like, that might be his sort of transliteration of Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley's work. So I don't know if it's from him or if it's from her, because I looked up Frankenstein quotations because I wanted it to be that. I wanted it to be a quotation from Frankenstein.
It's amazing.
And
was that
so
always
I read a
there, or
review
did you not
saying that it was from Branagh's film, but other people say that it's Frankenstein, so now I'm a little bit confused. But if it works for the audience, then it works for the audience.
Oh, it works.
It's such a great metaphor, and I don't know why. Maybe they've used it on the show before, but I can't remember. Because it was just so perfect for the situation they're in.
Well, Madeline, I know that you're East Coast time, so we do thank you for taking the time with us tonight. And I really want to know, are you working on any other projects, anything coming up in the future that we can look out for as your now new fans?
Oh, thank you. I have another chapter of Orphan Black coming out. Chapter 8 is mine. And then let's see, what else? I have a novel out right now called Company Town, out from Tor Books. And let's see, I'm also the author of the Machine Dynasty series of novels from Angry Robot Books. And actually the final book in that trilogy is going to be coming out sometime next year. And then there should also be another book from Tor coming out soon. And I'm excited about that too.
Busy.
So you're just sitting around eating truffles, getting high, not busy at all.
Yeah.
Wow, you are amazing. I'm gonna go check out. I'm a huge reader, and I am excited. I have a new author to find. But can we find you anywhere else on social media?
Yes, I am on Twitter at Madeline Ashby. Like, that's Ashby Alpha Sierra Hotel Bravo Yellow.
I would love that.
And then I'm also at MadelineAshby.com, and there are a lot of free stories there that you can read. I have some stories on Slate and MIT Tech Review and Boing Boing and some other places. And if you want something sort of smaller and easier to digest, then that's where I would go.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a great night, and we'll hopefully talk to you for episode 8.
That would be lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Madeline.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
That's great.
She's awesome.
She is awesome.
That's probably like just... I have to listen to the whole
man.
thing now.
I know. I'm like, let's rewind
Again.
because you killed that. I'm so glad that she was able to call in. And while she was talking to me, I was like getting sparked on even more stuff that happened in the episode.
Yeah, I know.
Can we talk about that ending?
Yes.
Okay, so I wrote ending because it's just a whole separate section. The house knocking. TMZ pulls up.
Can we
know.
let's just call it.
Oh,
Clone, you did
it! Let's roll right into our special segment.
Like, come on, this is it, you
Matt
guys.
Moore's like, cut the BS, right to the special segment, because that's exactly what this is. If you guys, if this is your first time tuning in, our Oh Clone You Didn't segment is where we give our OMG moment, where we just like clutch the pearls, jaw drops.
Gags
So
for gags.
let's talk about it. Matt, hit it off.
I mean, the moment for me, like, whenever, like, they say the little drone is flying in and filming them, I literally said aloud in my car, I was like, what is happening? I was like, drones, like, it was such a, I did not think that, I thought it was the police.
Me too.
Yeah.
I said
Madeline built it up as the police,
Yeah.
or like someone like that Davis guy. I didn't know. Did y'all think it was paparazzi at all?
No.
No way.
Paparazzi and Orphan Black?
Yeah, no. What even?
But I'm here for it.
Yeah.
The Holly weirdos showed up.
And then when they came in, I gotta stop talking. What did you think? What did you think?
Well, while I agree that was an Oh Clone You Didn't, for me it was actually the truffles. When
that's okay.
Sara revealed it, when she said, well, I basically said I know that you're not Cosima, my mouth dropped. I did not expect that. Even though it's true to Sara's character, I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
So that for me, it was like, oh my god, this show is amazing.
No, Shiksha, you're not wrong. Because I
You're
got
not
up and
wrong.
I was like doing a dance. I'm like, Sara
Yeah.
did it again? What? Like,
I told you she would come back and beat people up.
She is just like always been like an MVP.
Yeah.
When she
Always.
comes through,
Totally.
she's like Shaq. Like she's just ready to rumble. But yeah, I agree. I don't know. I'm split between these
The
two
two,
because
yeah.
the ending was crazy and Vivi goes just like haywire.
She's like scrappy and crazy AF.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she is scrappy. She has a little Helena in her. She's kind of like a hodgepodge
Yeah,
of
She's
them.
kind of Helena Sarah.
Yeah.
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 That's
Yeah, a
true.
little bit.
And I love though too. Oh, something else that made me gag is that like, no matter how long it's been, Sarah was still like, "Are you with Rachel?" Like she still think Rachel's gonna kill them
Come after
all. Like
them.
she does not trust that bitch ever, y'all.
Even
ever.
though Rachel gave them the list.
Yeah, she's like,
Still.
don't trust the bitch. I loved it. I love that she's still just like, you're
Rachel,
Sarah, right?
10 years later.
You're Sarah, yeah, exactly.
Listen, Sarah
man.
is sipping the same trust
Which
issues
makes me
as us,
believe,
so.
Sarah, you know, they do that in writing. They'll mention a character, so they put them in your brain again, but then you don't hear about them for like 3 episodes. So, I don't know. I think we might see some Sarah.
I hope
Rachel,
so.
I mean, Rachel.
Yeah, I really want to see Rachel. Anywhere Rachel goes, drama follows.
Yeah.
So I'm here
Yeah.
for it. You know I love the drama. So I don't know what's going to happen here. The reporters come in. Vivi is like all of a sudden acting full victim, saying that, like, I mean, granted, she was being held under her will,
Yeah.
but
After she broke into their house, yeah.
all rules
Yeah.
are gone now. You broke in, and now you have to pay the price. But she goes like Becky at the barbecue, like just like calling the cops, like, "Hello, there's a family baking, and they're holding me against my will."
Seriously crazy.
So let's hop into predictions on that.
Yeah, I think 3 things. The first one is that it's going to come full circle for Vivi because Arun is working now with Allison and Charlotte. So he's going to be calling her and telling her what's going on his end, and it's all going to kind of connect for her. I also think that everything is going to be released in the media now. It's going to be
There was
open.
a press kit.
Exactly. So the clone thing is
Press
out
kit,
now.
we know those too well.
I know. I'm glad. I'm like, that's hilarious that it was a freaking press kit. But I guess she would need a press kit.
Well, and so I think it'll be interesting to see the next episode, kind of the fallout and what's going to happen as a result.
Okay.
And finally, Helena needs to come back.
That's
love
my
her so
prediction.
much.
I think I'm calling
needs
it.
to come back.
Helena's coming back next episode.
Okay.
I predict it, y'all.
Me
Prediction
too.
right here. If
You
there's a
heard it
microphone,
here
I drop it.
first. Saucy prediction. I think that
AfterBuzz TV exclusive.
Thank you.
that it is.
Yes.
you.
Woo!
Thank you.
I think Helena could come back, but I do think that there's
She
going to be
will.
an Arun, Vivi, and the rest of the story connection.
Yeah.
Vivi's going to find out what's been happening. She's going to find out that there's an illness that's separate from theirs, and I think that we're going to get a lot more of that escalation.
Totally.
So we are unfortunately out of town, but what a great episode.
Yes, it was.
In the meantime, where can we find y'all?
You can find me at the Matt Mar, 2 T's, 2 R's, everybody. You can see me on Arrow tonight.
Oh, ow.
And you can find me on all social media at I am Bollygirl, Bolly girl. Yeah.
And you're on
That
Flash
you
tonight.
are.
I am on Flash, I'm on The Good Place, I'm on The Voice, and I'm on, there's one more.
Girl, you're like Madeline. You busy.
Legacies,
Girl.
Legacies, yeah.
Yes, I'm Steph Sabraw. You can find me at It's Steph Sabraw on Instagram and Twitter. Much love, clones. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.